Good morning and welcome back to AM. It is great to have you with us on a Friday morning. It's just gone 16 away from 9. Our next guest has released a special memoir to honour her late mother. Inge Woolf was born into a prosperous Jewish family in Vienna in 1934, and her remarkable story saw her end up here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, dedicating her life to making sure the horrors of the Holocaust will not be forgotten. Inge's daughter Deborah Hart is here to talk to us about the new book, Resilience, a story of persecution, escape, survival and triumph. Deborah, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here. First of all, can we start with Inge and her family's time in Vienna?
Yeah.
Their business, is that where their business was looted by Nazis?
Yes. So she was born in 1934. Within 4 years, the Nazis march into Vienna, and her family was a prosperous Jewish family. They had a business, they had a home, and friends, and lots of family there. And my grandfather, who had seen anti-Semitism before, said, "We have to leave." Within 2 weeks, they were in Prague. My grandfather was Czech, so they could go to Prague, within 2 weeks, they were at a church in Majava converting to Christianity. The church was trying to save Jews. Within a year, the Nazis had got to Czechoslovakia, and so they hatched this incredible plan to leave.
And brace yourselves, because it is incredible, and you have to remember what was going on in Nazi Germany at the time, right?
Yeah. So they decide that they will pretend they're just a family going on holiday, and the three of them get on a train and go to the heart of Nazi Germany, to Berlin. My mother says it was full, the train was full of soldiers. They were the only civilians on the train. And from Berlin, nobody questioned them. From Berlin, they took a plane to go on holiday to England, so they had a suitcase each. There, they got to over Croydon Airport and they got turned back because there was low cloud, so you can imagine how terrified they were. And they landed there 2 days. The plane went back the next day, but they landed there 2 days before the British authorities put in place more restrictions to stop immigrants from coming. So they were incredibly lucky. So they survived.
Incredibly brave.
Very brave. They got to England. They were completely impoverished. They had nothing. By then the Nazis had requisitioned the family business. All assets had been seized. So they had nothing. And we do have records of them asking for assistance from the Czech Refugee Fund for things like shoes for my mother. So they just had nothing.
You mentioned the records. How are you telling us these stories? Because actually the book is written by your mum. You've just come in to finish off the story, really, haven't you? Is it all based on what your mum has written?
Well, she had gathered together a lot of materials. So, for instance, she had the deportation records of her great aunt and her grandparents deported to Auschwitz and Sobibor. She had the records of the Nazis selling the family business to a Mr. Freitag. Of course, the family got none of that money. So lots and lots of records, and that are reproduced in the book as well. And she also gave her oral testimony to the Holocaust Centre of New Zealand. So we had a lot to fill in the gaps after she died.
And then this amazing new chapter in New Zealand, which has led to a thriving family business in Wellington. Everyone will know Woolf Photography, but also some very successful children here in New Zealand. Yourself among them. It is an incredible story. What can we learn from it?
Yeah, well, she and her family faced forward. The Holocaust was the background to their lives, but they relentlessly faced forward, and she wanted to pay back what she had received in New Zealand. And she was the founding director of the Holocaust Centre of New Zealand. She did that work when she was in her 70s, and the Holocaust Centre is not just there to remember the 6 million Jews who were murdered, or the 1.5 million children murdered, of whom my mother could have easily been one if she hadn't escaped, but to teach about how hate starts small, and that we all have a part to play to combat anti-Semitism, prejudice and apathy. We all have to do that, and that was, her driving force in her later years.
How hard was it for them all to convert to Christianity?
I think it was tremendously difficult because my grandparents never talked of it at all. It came as a shock to my great uncle when he went to research the family history, and he found these records, and he whispered it in the ear of my mother, saying, look, they converted. And she said, I remember we knelt in a very cold church at night, and we converted. And she didn't know she was Jewish until Hitler had been defeated. So all those years in England, her parents didn't want her to know she was Jewish.
Wow.
Because they were afraid that Hitler would get to
England.
The UK. So, yeah.
You're literally living in secret until the coast is clear, until Hitler's gone. That's unreal.
Yeah.
Deborah, where can people get a hold of this book, Resilience?
Yeah, they can buy it through the Holocaust Centre of New Zealand, and it can be posted out anywhere. And it's in all leading bookstores as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing that with us this morning. A fascinating story, and as you said, your mother, an incredible woman.
She was.
Yeah, must be proud of her.
Thank you. I am.
Right, 9 minutes away from 9 o'clock now. That's Deborah Hart, author, well, co-author, would we say? Mum did
Mum's book.
Mum's book. It's her name on the front, so there you go.
That's right.